Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and the Las Vegas Raiders have traded away cornerback Nick Mullens. Also, we made a move. We signed linebacker Tay Davis. I'm going to talk about all of that on today's show, but I wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for our awesome brand new sponsor. Major shout out to LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Let's face it, y'all. Fall, it's right around the corner, and I want to make sure that you're hiring the right people to make sure that your small businesses are running properly. You want to make sure that they're clicking on all cylinders. That way you don't stall out like John Gruden in the red zone. So LinkedIn Jobs is going to make sure that you're finding the right candidates quicker, faster, and 100% free. So all you got to do is go to linkedin.com/NFL Daily. That link for y'all is going to be in the comments and in the description of today's video. Let's talk about Nick Mullens. He is now on his way to the Minnesota Vikings for a conditional 7th-round pick. Pending physical. He's still got to pass that bad boy. Now, for the Raiders, the way that I look at this is he was going to lose the job to Jarrett Stidham. I do not anticipate the Raiders keeping 3 quarterbacks on that roster, and now you at least potentially get something. If this is the first time you're ever tuning in to the Raiders Report, well, guess what? If it's news, if it's rumors, if I'm chilling at home with my dog Chuck late last night, breaking down the Jordan Jenkins injury news, we keep you up to date more than any other Raiders channel out there, so hit that subscribe button. We're also interactive, so when you see this trade, the Las Vegas Raiders get a conditional 2024 7th-round pick, and the Vikings get Nick Mullens, I am going to ask you on every show. I want to run this show like I do when I'm hanging out with my friends. Like when the chat sports team's at a bar, when I'm hanging out with my family at a family reunion. We're talking about sports. We're giving our opinion. And if you're the dude that likes to sit back, stand up, put your chest out, and let me know what you're thinking right now down in the comments. So who won the trade? If you think it's the Raiders, type LV. If you think it's the Minnesota Vikings, then please type MIN. Personally, I can sit up here confidently and say, from a Raider standpoint, they win this trade. From the Viking standpoint, heck, they could say that they won this trade. And the reason why is because you're at least getting something. The Raiders get that 2024 7th conditional pick if Mullens is just active for one game. He just has to be active for one game. Doesn't have to play, just got to be active. And for Minnesota, you got a brand new regime in there with Kevin O'Connell. Kellen Mond sucks. Sean Mannion is about as plain can be, and you're looking for a backup for Kirk Cousins. So for Mullens, he's going to compete with Kellen Mond. He's going to compete with Sean Mannion, and now they have another quarterback in that room. For the Raiders, you knew it was going to be Jarrett Stidham. The moment that the Raiders traded those offseason picks for Stidham from the New England Patriots, you knew that Josh McDaniels, Mick Lombardi, Raiders OC, wanted somebody that not was going to compete with Derek Carr, but the more important job here for Stidham is, are you effective in practice? Because the Raiders you've already seen this preseason, this team has yet to turn over the football a single time, and I believe they only have 6 penalties. They're going to play crisper football. That also requires your practice players, quarterback, to make sure that your wide receivers, that your tight ends are being able to execute the plays effectively, which is why now Jarrett Stidham, he is the clear-cut backup for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, let's face it, y'all. Finding a job can sometimes be a little bit difficult. Finding the right people to help that small business run can be a little bit difficult. Luckily for you, LinkedIn is here to help you out. So go to linkedin.com/NFL Daily. Post your job 100% for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn. Jobs to reach your network and beyond in the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidate that you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/NFL Daily. I'm going to say it one more time in case you weren't paying attention. That's linkedin.com/NFL Daily to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I mean, even the Raiders here with Nick Mullens is a perfect example. Sometimes you can bring a person in and they're not the right fit. I don't want that to happen to you because here at a small company like Chat Sports, a lot of times you can't afford that, right? So LinkedIn's going to help you do it. And all you need to do to post your job for free is go to linkedin.com/NFL Daily. Now, let's look at the updated Raiders quarterback depth chart here. You got Derek Carr, clear cut number 1. New pictures, too. Jarrett Stidham is your quarterback 2. Chase Garbers, after a pretty impressive third preseason game up against the Miami Dolphins, he's going to be your quarterback 3. I do not anticipate the Silver and Black to keep all 3 of these players. Maybe Garbers is a practice squad QB because I know the Raiders like his overall development. But when you talk about the Raiders, this is going to be a football team that they want to try to keep some extra players on the defense, maybe keep a few extra guys on the offensive line. They're confident in Derek Carr, and I'm confident in Derek Carr as well. So what do you think about this? We just showed you the QBs. Do you think they keep 2, or do you think they keep 3? How many quarterbacks will the Raiders end up keeping on the roster? Now what we're going to do here, y'all, is we're going to roll through some of these stats that the QBs have compiled over the first 3 preseason games for the Raiders. So in the NFL Hall of Fame game, Stidham, he was 8 of 15, 96 yards against Jacksonville. Nick Mullens, 8 of 11, 72. Garbers, 4 of 6 for 35. Personally, I said that Stidham was better in game 1 than Mullens. I thought he looked a little bit lost. I thought he looked a little bit confused, really wasn't able to execute the offense. In the second preseason game up against Minnesota, which is actually kind of one of the reasons why I could see the Vikings making this deal, he was the better quarterback. He was 7 of 9, led a touchdown drive, 94 yards, no interceptions, showed a lot of poise in the pocket. The offensive line gave him time to block. And the third preseason game against Miami, I do think that Stidham maybe played a little bit better. I mean, you look at the numbers, you're like, well, he obviously did, Mitch. But the O-line was so bad when Mullens was in the game, I don't really think that you got a fair read on how talented he actually is or how well he was able to execute the offense. I mean, you saw early on, the Raiders were trying to throw the ball down the field. The O-line wasn't able to block Miami's starting caliber players, especially Alex Leatherwood, and then they went to a dink and dunk offense because they were trying to get the football out quick. So Mullens, 6 of 9, 39 against Miami. Stidham, 7 of 10. Garber, 6 of 9, 54 yards. He also had 44 yards rushing. So, y'all, we went live here on the Raiders Report, and I told y'all, hit the subscribe button, turn on those notifications, because I don't want you to be that guy 2 days from now, you're like, Mitch, is Nick Mullens going to play in the preseason game against the Patriots? I'm going to say shame on you. Hit the subscribe button. We got free videos coming out all year long. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning, if it's my off day and I'm hanging out with Chuck in a dog park, I got you guys covered. Why? Because I know you watch the show to stay up to date, but I also do it because this is my therapy session as well. So please join me. Time is the most valuable thing we have, and I hope that you spend it with me. Hit that sub button. If you thought I was only going to talk about the Nick Mullens trade, nope. The Las Vegas Raiders also signed linebacker Tay Davis. Now, he did not play in 2021. He did play for the Giants, though, in 2019, and both the Giants and the Browns in 2020. He was cut by the Houston Texans a few days ago. Anytime I see past players playing in past regimes, like playing with Patrick Graham, it does make me think about it a little bit. Like, okay, for the Raiders, you lost Jordan Jenkins. He tore his ACL. They were down to 84 players on the roster. Now you signed Tay Davis. You go back up to 85. With cuts having to happen tomorrow by 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific, it is intriguing to see who some of these players are that's going to end up getting cut, because you got to move on from 5 dudes. I do not anticipate that Davis is one of those players that gets cut, because it'd be kind of a shitty thing to do hey, we're going to sign you today and then we're going to cut you tomorrow. The Raiders don't even practice today. The only team that practiced today for the Raiders, or at the Raiders facility, is actually the New England Patriots. So the Patriots, they're practicing in Las Vegas this week, which is going to be interesting to see how they handle the heat. And then you got joint practices on Tuesday and Wednesday for the Silver and Black. Really curious how that goes, because the Patriots last week got in 9, count them, 9 fights with the Carolina Panthers. And I would imagine there's going to be some emotions going on, especially between this entire coaching staff. So let's one more time here, start at the top. Tom Pelissero, he broke the news early this morning. Trade. The Raiders are sending quarterback Nick Mullens to the Vikings for a conditional 7th-round pick in 2024. Per sources, a new potential backup for Kirk Cousins. Anytime you see conditional pick, your mind should say, okay, what's that condition? The condition is if Nick Mullens is active for 1 game with the Vikings, the Raiders will receive the pick. Sounds pretty good to me, right? So you just got to be active for 1 game. Don't have to play, just got to be active on the sidelines. Raiders get the pick. The Raiders also signed linebacker Tay Davis. doesn't really offer too much versatility. 7 tackles last season. He had, 12 tackles in 2019, did not play last season. 7 tackles in 2020, 12 tackles in 2019, 33 tackles in 2018, and 2 sacks that season. We'll see how much versatility he adds, but personally, I don't think this is very good news for Darian Butler. It adds a little bit more of an uphill battle for him. It will be interesting to see what happens with Lucas Masterson because, Divine Diablo, he's going to make the roster. Jayon Brown, he's going to make the roster. Denzel Perriman, he's a lock to make the roster. But after that, it is a little bit cloudy because the Silver and Black want to find some other players who can cover a little bit better. We'll see if Tay Davis is that guy. Now, it's the model here at Chat Sports. It's also around the model for the nation. I love how much pride the nation takes in being a real one. And here at Chat Sports, I want to know who the real ones are here. The people who watch the Raiders Report all the time, religiously. Not just because you like the show, but because you take pride in knowing the most you possibly can again around the Raiders. So if you made it this far, remember there's only one nation. Spam RO4L down in the comments.